Hi, this is Nancy Reynolds. I hope you enjoyed World Card Making Day on October 1st, 2022. It was a wonderful time, wasn't it? This is your video, the card we made with the Ringed of Love suite. Was such fun to use. There's a hybrid embossing folder, lovely stamps, although I think I only used one, or two, or maybe not, just one. Anyway, had a good time making this card and I want to show it to you step by step so that you can make it yourself if you'd like. I have some decorative pieces of the Textured Chic Designer Series paper. It's a specialty paper with the gold in it, and that's why I brought in the gold color for our card. I'll set that aside. I have a piece of 3 3/4 by 5 inch or 9.5 by 13.9 centimeters. Oh, and I'm sure about the 4 inches is 10 centimeters. I think 1.8 centimeters is the width. You might want to just look at that if you're doing it in metric. So we have a piece of Vera Vanilla, a piece of the rose gold foils paper. Oh, so pretty. It's 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches or 10 by 14.4 centimeters. I have a piece of Very Vanilla, the exact same size for the inside of our card. And our card base is Early Espresso, 5.5 by 8.5, which is 14.9, 21. It's scored in half, which would be 4 1/4 or 10.5 centimeters, and then folded. And remember to burnish. Get a good crease on that one. Let's talk about the hybrid embossing folder before we get much further. This is so cool. So what I did with this piece that was 3 3/4 by 5 is I took it, I lined it up. It probably doesn't matter if it's really straight or not, but I like to use the little line to make things straight. I ran it through my cut and emboss and got this. So here we have our tree rings with that lovely bark around it. That's one thing we can do with this with the hybrid embossing folder. The other very cool thing we can do, and what makes it a hybrid, is the Ring with Nature bundle has the tree ring dies, and they have a die that fits right inside the embossing folder. And I think it goes on the side, it fits right in, kind of snuggles in there. There it is. And I took and put, this is a half sheet. I'm going to use my big, large cut and emboss machine. So I used a half sheet. It's a little larger than I needed, but I wanted to make sure I got all of the little rings because I'm not sure what size I want to use. So here's my cut and emboss machine. I've got the Big Boss here. Let me show you the sandwich. Couldn't think of the word. So you take your base plate, which is the number 1, put your embossing folder with the paper in it and the die in it. Always make sure that this edge, the fold hinge edge, goes first because you don't want to break it. And then we've got our 3D embossing folder cover. And this is a tight fit. So here we go. Whoops, I guess I didn't have it on my table straight. I apologize for that. So let's move it out of the way. Take off our top plate, and look what we've got. We have got embossed and cut tree rings. Isn't that cool? Let's see, that's the end. This is the top side with the bark around it. So I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to put my die back, put the embossing folder away, or at least set aside, and show you the rest of the dies. These are really cool. There are a lot of, there's 4 or 5 little tree branches. And what I did was I took my, you'll notice that they're on our card, kind of scattered around for decoration. I took my rose gold piece of, very pretty piece of foil, and I cut them all out. This is one of our layers. We're going to actually put this piece on top of it. So our holes will be covered, nobody will know we did it, and we have 5 little pieces of branches and such, and leaves, to decorate our card with. I just think this is a lovely set. I really like it. Okay, get that out of the way. When I looked at this on the gold, I thought it needed a little bit more. So I pulled in a piece of scratch paper, my blending brush, and my early espresso ink. Because this just looked, it needed depth. And so I picked up some ink. I started off my paper because you don't want a big glob of ink anywhere. And then I just, using circular motions, went around and gave it a little bit of color and depth. And I might want a little bit more, kind of want to concentrate on the bark. I'd like the bark to be a little darker than the rest. I have found, I know that some people don't wash their brushes after they use them. They just have several and they keep them for other projects. I found my brushes wash really, really well in soap and water. And so that's what I will do with this when we're done. Close this up. This is on the card. Oh, the one thing I do want to caution you about, we've smeared a lot of ink over here and we're going to smear more. So don't use that as your base to work on your project, because you might transfer some ink. We are just going to put this down flat. So I'm going to grab my seal. You know, since it's embossed and it's going on a foil, I'm going to rethink that, and I'm going to grab my Tombow. Make sure I've got any dry glue off of it, because the Tombow allows it to get into all those little grooves. Gives you just a little bit more contact for adhering. Okay, so there we go. We'll bring in, I don't want glue all over my paper, so I'm going to bring in my silicone mat because glue doesn't stick to it. It also doesn't make a big mess on the area you want to work with. Oh. And just as I did when I put it down, I twisted it a little. It gives you a correction time, which is very important. The next thing I did was I took those cute little decorative pieces and I lined them up on my card front. So I pretty much made my card front and then attached it to the base. So here we are. And I think I'm going to go back to the Tombow for that, because again, it's going over the embossed area. So I'm just going to kind of try and center it top to bottom. It's kind of nice if you put one side on, then you see if it needs a little scrunching, you can scrunch it, because Tombow allows that. Even the other side of this paper is pretty, even though it doesn't have the gold on it. Then I'm going to put this side on and just eyeball it. It'll be close, it may not be perfect, but there's a lot going on with this card. So if it's not absolutely perfect, it'll be okay. Besides, this is handmade, not Hallmark. and the middle one last, because then I can center it between the other two. If not having them perfectly matched bothers you, you could always do this step on the grid paper or with a ruler and have it lined up perfectly. So you can do that if you want to. The next step is a little ribbon. And I don't love tying ribbon bows, but I do want the ribbon to show. And what I'm using is the satin edged ribbon. Got the very vanilla on it and the gold. It's so pretty. And I will use my seal for this. I'm going to take and just run some seal up the side. I want it in about the middle. Again, I'm not too picky about that. It could be a little higher, it could be a little lower. We're going to decorate over the top of it, so not a lot of it's going to show. And then I'm going to grab my snips with the ribbon on them. And I know they're my ribbon snips and they are sharp. Because cutting paper with your snips will dull them. You can sharpen them, but when it comes to cutting your ribbon, you want to have an always sharp pair of scissors. So I have a snips reserved for ribbon. So there we are. We've got our bases for our card. I'm going to decide which of the rings I want. I'm going to put one of them on the inside. So we've got a lot of sizes to choose from. I think I'm going to put the big one here, like I did on that card. And I put the large one down flat. I put a little one on top of it. And then a medium-sized one over the top of the whole thing. And I am going to raise this one on dimensionals. Let me put those aside. And we're going to bring in our scratch paper, our blender brush, and our early espresso ink. Because these look flat to me. So I use my early espresso ink on it to make them look a little richer. And it almost gives it a little vintage feel too. So here we are. We've got our ink brushed up. We're going to just start off, and then we're just going to go over it. And I just went over the whole thing once. Then I came back in and went over the bark, because I really do want that darker. So here we are. One is done. We'll do the little cute one. Just over the top quickly. And then a little more on the bark. Right there. And our large one, which will take a little more ink to do the whole thing. Maybe I'll just do quick on the bark and then over the... And it's not a totally, there's a little variation in color, and that's good because it's nature. And we have variations in color. There we are. We have used our blender brush for the last time, I believe. Oh, we're going to do one more. Let's do it now, while we still have everything out. Let me grab another smaller one, I think. This is going to be glued on the inside for a little decoration on our card. There we go. Now we're done. And I didn't even make too bad of a mess on my fingers. I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, we're getting this out of the way before we get brown ink on everything, or early espresso ink. Our card still has the sticky on it, so I'm going to keep my silicone mat in front of me. Okay, this one will go here. So let me get the Tombow bag out. I do want a little more of the blue showing. And then I'll put the little one on. And this one needs dimensionals. I am using up some of my dimensionals. Borders. These are really great. I hope you use yours too. After all, they work just as well as the little tiny, the circular dimensionals. But, let's see. Let me put one more right here. Because what's going to happen is this actually is going to sit on, it's going to overlap those two pieces. And so I would like it flatter here, but with a little more, little raised on the rest of it. There we are. Now we can put on our bits and pieces, our little rose gold foil pieces. And I'm going to do those with glue dots. Sometimes I like to put the glue dots on the front so I can tuck them under like that. And they glue, so they've got a little more, they move a little more. I like this one with the little berries on it. I think it's my favorite one. I'll put that on the leaf, so let's take and tuck it under here. And then we'll stick one out of there. I've got this longer one. Oh, that didn't want to stay. And I'm going to take it, I've got a lot of space right in here. So I think she's going to sit there. And once I got done with this, I realized it really didn't need Wink of Stella anywhere. If you know me, you know Wink of Stella goes on almost every card. And this I'm going to let hang over just the teensiest bit because it's going on the card base still, so that's fine. So there we go. And as long as we're finishing up the front before we move on, I have these. They're the Leaf Label and Amber Gem Combo Pack. They're from the Rustic Harvest in that area in the mini catalog. And I thought they would go pretty on here. A pretty amber color. Let's see. One here. It's kind of a mixture of metallics, but I liked it. And maybe here. So there we are. The front of our card is almost done. We do need a sentiment, but I think we'll do that after. Let's put this on our card base. And again, I'm going, oh, well, that one fell out. Let me get another glue dot. Maybe I'll put it on the bottom part and tuck it under this way. There. Better. We have two more things we're going to do with the front. We're going to put a bow on it. And we're going to do our sentiment. Oh, I was going to raise that. We don't need Tombow for that. We need dimensionals for that. Since it's going on a dark card, we can glue dot over the dimensionals. Or dimensional over the glue. So here we go. I always kind of like to catch the ribbon. Give it a little more stability. This one here, because we don't really want our middle to sag. No saggy middles allowed on our cards. And I always try to take the little dimensional backs and put them in the garbage can so that I don't get them all over the house. Get rid of this so I have a white surface to work on. It's a little easier to line up if you've got a white surface, I think. And that looks just about right. All right, there's our card. Let's do a little stamping right now. I have a scrap of Very Vanilla. Scraps are really great to have. And I have a scrap of soft suede. I've got my punch, which is the double oval punch. I'm going to stamp an early espresso since that's the ink I've been using. One reason I fixed the Textured Chic Designer Series paper is there's both pink and blue in it. And I like pink and blue a lot with browns. It always makes me smile. And then we will cut the little oval, not the large oval. Oh, here. I can just see it. Can't you see it? Me cutting it and it's popping out and falling right into that ink pad. Let's not let that happen. Okay, just for you, out of Very Vanilla. So keep your strips when you cut them off because they come in handy for this. And then I wanted a base for it, so I'm going to use my soft suede. I'm going to move it clear over the edge. We always like to get the most, don't we? This is going to be glued on. Because I do find that sometimes I like to be able to move it a smidge. A little up, a little over, just not a lot. Yep, that's good enough. And I put that on with glue dots also. No, I did not. I put it on with dimensionals. Silly me. 2 dimensionals. And I'm just going to put it right here. Oh, I want it to go under the foil, the rose gold. There we are. Almost done with the card. Here's my inside. Here is my, remember that we colored this? So I'm going to put this on with a little bit of some Tombow. Pull in the silicone mat again. And I'm going to just put it like this. As you can see, it hangs off. And then you can just take your snips. Now, I would suggest you waiting until the glue dries before you snip your edges off. But since I'm not going to wait today, and I'm not going to make you wait, we're just going to do it. And this will go into our card. I'll adhere it with some seal to the inside. There we go. The only thing missing from the front is our bow and the stamping on our envelope. So we are almost done. Let's go ahead and stamp on the envelope. I'm going to bring that. I'm going to stamp. I'm going to go off the edges. And so I believe, oh, this is how I figured out that 3/4 might be 1.8 centimeters. I did a little math. Sometimes math is hard. That's also what scratch paper is for, right? Math. I'm just going to stamp, ink up my stamp, and I thought it added the kind of interest if I kind of did a little stamping off. That one there. And I like to decorate the flaps too. So I'm going to put one in the middle and one on each side. Just a little bit lower and off the side. There we go. Our envelope is done. Something new, different. You know, you've got the front decorated, you have the inside decorated. And then you put it in a plain envelope? That just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, back for, so here's our original. Here's what we just made. I will need my glue dots and my ribbon. Now normally this is a really soft pliable ribbon and I don't normally tie a ribbon on camera, but I thought I'd do the bunny ear method. This is how I taught kindergartners on the playground to tie their shoes. 2 bunny ears. And then it goes over, under, and through. And you can kind of mess with it a little. Usually I use my bow jig, but I thought I could do this. With a little adjustments. Extra pull. Let me trim that with my scissors. And this is going to go right here. You can still see the copper through it. I want it to be just about in the middle with and lined up with the ribbon, even though it doesn't really touch. So here is our glue dot. We'll put it on. And put it right here. Well, I guess it helps if you pick it up with the glue dot. There we are. And here is our World Card Making Day card made with the Ringed with Nature set. I hope you enjoyed it. And until I see you again, happy stamping! Bye-bye!